Does everyone have closed captions and you're ready to begin? You might hear my cat giving a little meow in the background, but that's the bonus of Zoom. Okay. Again, thank you all. I will reiterate for people just joining that closed captioning is available. So without further ado, thank you all for joining us for the third event in our series, Recipes for Accessibility, organized by the Boston University Gastronomy Program and sponsored by BU's Diversity and Inclusion Office. In addition to celebrating the skills and experiences of disabled cooks, we hope this series sparks conversations and a deeper understanding of how ableism, as well as adaptability, function in food spaces. My name is Amber Sampson, and my pronouns are she, her. Visually, I'm a white, blonde woman with red lipstick. I'm disabled, a professional chef and graduate student in BU's gastronomy program, and I will be moderating this evening's events. Though I'm personally based in Phoenix, Arizona, home of the Akmil Otham and Peeposh people, I wanted to acknowledge that BU resides on the ancestral and unceded lands of the Wampanoag and Massachusetts people. Land acknowledgements are a small step toward ensuring a culture of respect, truth, and accountability in our community. I'd also like to encourage those in attendance to check out the many events the BU Arts Initiative is hosting as part of their Indigenous Voices in the Americas series. Finally, you're all welcome to keep your cameras on, but we do ask that you remain muted for the entirety of the event. If you have any questions, please drop them in the chat and I will read them out loud during or at the end of the demo. Now, I'd like to formally introduce our guest chef this evening, Alexis Hilliard, creator of Stump Kitchen, hooray, who will be demonstrating a recipe for vegan gluten-free drop biscuits. Alexis Hilliard, she, her, is a queer and disabled YouTube creator, self-taught vegan chef, and entrepreneur. Born without her left hand, Alexis uses her stump as a kitchen tool, from spatula to juicer, while expanding the vocabulary of what's possible in the kitchen each week on her YouTube show, Stump Kitchen. Stump Kitchen is a YouTube series that celebrates body diversity, gluten-free vegan cooking, and the amazing, unique ways we move through the world. In 2016 and 2018, Stump Kitchen won Best Food Blog in VUE Magazine's Best of Edmonton, Canada. In 2017, Alexis was named the first Canadian ambassador to the Lucky Fin Project, an organization dedicated to limb difference awareness, education, and celebration. Alexis was also awarded the Meritorious Service Medal from the Governor General of Canada for her Stump Kitchen work, which is one of the highest honors that Canada can bestow upon its citizens. So I know we are honored to have her here tonight. Please take it away, Alexis.
Oh, thank you so much, Amber. That was such a lovely intro, and I am so pumped for this. I've been looking forward to it for a long time. So hello, pardon me, I'm getting over a little cold. Yes, I'm Alexis. My pronouns are she, her, and like Amber said, I'm missing my left hand. I lovingly call my arm my stump, but I didn't always call it my stump. Back in the day when I was little, I would call my arm my baby hand, and then I started calling it Bebe because my little sister named my arm. She was trying to say baby hand, but she was so little that Bebe came out. And so from then on, my little arm has been named Bebe, and he has his own personality. And to this day, if my sister is feeling stressed or sad, she'll be like, can I give Bebe a little squish? And I'm like, sure. And she'll just squish my arm, squish my stump. And it's just the sweetest thing ever. So I wanted to let you know that because there's a lot of beautiful ways that I interact with my disability, with my disabled body that people might not know on the surface. And so, yeah, you can call this my stump or Bebe. Anything works for me. What else? Yeah, I also live here. I identify as a settler ancestor, and we live on Treaty 6 territory here in Edmonton, Alberta. And I have a little one. My kid's name is Joven. They're turning 2 in 2 days. So I have a toddler. And I cook. So yeah, shall we get cooking?
Yeah, congratulations. These might be some early birthday biscuits.
Absolutely. Yeah, I still have to make a birthday cake, so that'll come later. Tomorrow maybe. Now, I love to use an apron because I get really dirty. I like to hold things next to my body a lot with my limb difference, so I'm going to put it on an apron. You don't have to, but you can if you want to. And I'd like to show you how I tie my apron with one hand. Okay, let's see. Can you see this? Yes, you can. Okay, so first I loop my arm around like that. Like that. And then I can connect the two. And then I stick it in my elbow crook. And then I pull with my stump in my hand. And then I hold it with my stump and make a makeshift bow, I guess. So I have a one looped bow in the back. I took a little practice, learning that, but I got it down pretty well. And that's how I do it. And I like how we all do it a little bit differently. Okay. Who's had a biscuit here before? I see some. Okay, good, great, awesome. Now, when I went gluten-free, I really missed biscuits. So when I found this recipe, I was so happy. But it had an egg in it. And so I researched egg replacements for vegans, so people that don't eat animal products. And I found out that soda water, who knew? It's a great egg replacer for some baking, like muffins and biscuits. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, that carbonation really benefits because it gives us that additional rise if you've got a chemical leavener in your dish.
Absolutely. Science. It's just, we have the same, oh my, yes, show me yours again. This is on, is it Tita? Look, we have the same fizzy water.
Alexis is pointing out that another person who's watching and has an apron on in the audience is ready to join, and they have their fizzy water ready to make the recipe along with us.
So exciting.
The recipe was distributed this morning, but if anyone needs the recipe, you're welcome to make it along with us this evening or in the future. If you make it, be sure to tag Boston University's gastronomy program and Stump Kitchen so we can see your lovely biscuits.
Amazing. So the first thing that we need to do that I always forget until too late is preheat our oven. So please preheat your oven to 450 degrees. Great. Pardon me. The next thing I love to do ahead of time, because it just makes the life easier, is grabbing my baking pan, also an instrument. Here I am banging on my baking pan, getting that ready. And I'm going to put a little bit of parchment paper, not waxed paper. I've made that mistake before. That'll melt to your pan. Parchment paper on my pan. I'm going to put this down. I used this for cookies before. I like to recycle. So I've got my pan ready to go, like so. Okay, I'm going to show you some stump techniques, I call them. So through my cooking show and Stump Kitchen and social media, I have developed some fun stump techniques that I use my arm to cook with in the kitchen. And the first one I'll show you with our flour. So we're going to put 2 cups of, in this case, gluten-free flour blend into a bowl. So I'm going to grab my cup, measuring cup, and I'm just going to go ahead and put it right in the bag, because sometimes you want to be really exact. This recipe, you don't really have to be. And I know it's a big no-no to do that, but you know what? It's Stump Kitchen. You don't have to be perfect. It's okay. So I'm just going to dip my 1 cup measuring cup into my bag of flour. And then I love this one. I'm going to use my stump as a leveler to level off the flour and put the excess back in the bag. Yeah, and then I'm just going to smash it into the bowl.
Built-in leveler.
Built-in leveler, exactly. I'm going to do that one more time. So we have 2 cups.
And that's a really great technique for anyone, because it's important, if you do have a recipe that's exact, that you measure your flour correctly, because it can change the recipe in an extraordinary way. So
yeah, usually
is always helpful.
That's right. Usually if you stick it right in, it compresses the air out and then you can get too much flour. But in this case, it's okay if there's some variability in the flour, which is lovely. Lovely for us. Okay, so that's stump technique number 1. Next, before I do the rest of the dry ingredients, I'm actually going to make some buttermilk. So the way that I like to make vegan buttermilk is I have 1 cup of non-dairy milk in a measuring cup. This is oat milk. And I'm going to pour in about 1 tablespoon of white vinegar. And I'm going to use what I call the chicken wing technique. So I'm taking the bottle of vinegar and putting it under my stump arm, kind of like crooked underneath my armpit and holding tightly with my stump. So it looks like I have a little chicken wing. And I'm going to open the vinegar and just eyeball. That's probably a tablespoon or 2. Eyeball that into the milk. And that's going to make a nice buttermilk. We'll let that kind of sit and, I don't know, curdle, I guess.
Percolate and curdle a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. You got it. So that's 2 stump techniques. Who's going to keep count?
I definitely will. And I think we should keep count in our audience. And I'm sure at the end, we might have some other people who have their own disability techniques as well.
Absolutely. That would be amazing. Yeah. Okay. Next, we need 1 tablespoon of baking powder. This is going to help our biscuits arise and get puffy and all that good stuff. So I'm going to use the chicken wing technique again. Put it under my little stump arm here. Open it up, grab my tablespoon. And I like to just use the jar as a leveling agent. I like stick it in and then I scrape it along the top to level it off. It just makes things easier, you know? Does anybody else do that too?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Easier, you know, just makes it fun. I love seeing all of you cooking, the little chefs there. Great, great, great. Okay. Next, we need 1 teaspoon of salt. Salty salt. Chicken wing technique again. But I'm holding it up higher and more close to my body because I don't want to spill the salt. And as I'm holding this close to my body against my chest with my stump, you can, you know, start to imagine how I might be getting stains on my shirt right above my breastbone here from holding containers. So I often get, you know, cereal spills or drink spills just in this one area. It's kind of my trademark, but it's also why I love using an apron. So
Alexis, I noticed while you're scooping that salt that a lot of your containers are a mason jar that have that thread. I'm sure you have that for sustainability purposes, but yes. I noticed that for some of us who have grip and need to work on that, that there can be different types of jars and containers that are harder or easier to open. Have you found that the mason jar is the one that's most accessible for you to open with your technique?
Absolutely, yes. And that's only because I'm able to use a lot of like resistance when holding it against my body. And my right hand that I use to unscrew the top lid is quite strong because it's had to do a lot of extra work in its life. So it's usually very strong to open these jars. However, if I didn't have any limb up of my left arm, I might need to put it between my legs or try a different type of jar. So for me, it's great. I also really like this flour container. It actually has a Velcro seal. Mm-hmm. So rather than having to like try to pinch it back together or open it in hard ways, it's very easy to get into with one hand. It's really lovely. So I think that's just ingenious.
The Bob's 1-to-1 gluten-free flour is my favorite flour because it's just a great baseline gluten-free flour. And also it has incredibly accessible packaging as well for anyone with mobility issues.
That's very, very true. So I'm just grabbing my little whisk and whisking up my dry ingredients so far. I got some flour in my eye. It's a workplace hazard. And I'll leave the whisk in the bowl. Now my last like dry ingredient is going to be 2 tablespoons of sugar. I haven't tried it with other sweeteners, but I'm sure it would be okay if you tried it with honey or maple syrup. But I've only done it with sugar. Where's my tablespoon? There's my tablespoon. So chicken winging this jar again. Apparently this is my most common stump technique. I'm gonna do 1 tablespoon. And you know what? I'm gonna just do 1. I don't like it quite as sweet. So if you want it half sweet, you could just do 1. That's just for my own personal taste. If you like a sweet biscuit, go for 2. Do it.
Yeah, it's great to modify though, because you can always put something like jam and butter on it to make it sweeter, or you can have it, you know, with an egg replacement and you have a breakfast thing. And so if it's not too sweet, you can have it as savory or sweet later.
That's a really good point. Okay, now this isn't a stump technique, but it's something I like to do in my stump kitchen work. And I often sing when I cook or I make fun audible noises. So in this case, I have a Whisk It Up song, and you're welcome to sing it along with me. I'm not going to hear you, so I'm not going to know. But it goes like this: whisk it up, whisk it up, whisk it, whisk it, whisk it up. And then I just repeat it until I'm done whisking. Okay, so if you want to try it with me, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and oh, sorry, what?
I'm going to join you, and I wanted to say if anyone wants to unmute just for this small section and sing Whisk It Up with us, we're welcome right now.
You can. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, and whisk it up, whisk it up, whisk it, whisk it, whisk it up, oh, whisk it up, whisk it up, whisk it, whisk it, whisk it up. Great.
That's
nice.
so cute.
Just makes it more fun. I don't know. I just love it. Okay, now, do we have our flour in there? I'm giving you a thumbs up. Yeah.
Check.
Check. Okay. Do we have our baking powder?
Check.
Yeah. Thumbs up. Check. Do we have salt?
Check.
Check. Yeah. And do we have sugar?
Yes. Just 1.
Yeah. Great. We have just 1 tablespoon in this one. You got it. Great. Amazing. So all we have left, we just have 3 ingredients left. The first one is going to be our butter. So you can use regular old butter. I'm using a vegan baking stick called Melt, or you can use there's another kind, Earth Balance. There's lots of different like baking sticks that you can use. You can also use shortening. And I'm going to use the baking. Oh, my oven is to temperature.
Is ready.
A loud beep behind me. So you want 6 tablespoons of butter. I'm just going to throw it right all in the dry mixture. And I'm really just like, I get quite dirty when I cook, and I don't mind that feeling. So I know some people do, but for me, I just get right in there with my stump.
Part of the process.
Yeah, I'm unpeeling the butter and I'm using my stump to kind of coax it out. And then, you know, I've got buttery hands, but then I just wipe them on my apron. It's no big deal, you know. So that's that. Now, does anybody know what this handy dandy tool is called? I'm holding it up and it's got it's like a half circle shape, and it's got kind of lines in it and a nice grippy handle.
I'm waiting to see if anyone in the comments knows what that tool is.
Pastry, I'm seeing some comments pop up. Yeah, it's a pastry blender. You got it. Maybe you call it something else too, but we're going to use this now. Yeah, pastry cutter, exactly.
Got it. Pastry cutter, right on, Lindsay.
Yeah. And I do this a lot with my arm. I like to play with things on it. Anyway, we're going to use this to cut in the butter. And so I'm going to mash down the butter in my bowl and give about a 1/4 turn twist and lift up, and then mash down again, 1/4 twist. And I'm going to keep doing this mashing technique until my butter is about the size of like a small green pea. So like just little, but not too little. So I'm smashing, rotating, smashing, rotating. I just love pastry cutters. And
was your butter room temperature beforehand, cold or?
It was, I took it out of the fridge about like when we started. So it was like 25 minutes warm. So it's a little bit warm. but you do really want it to be as cold as possible. So yeah, that's going to help the fats just bake in a good way. If you know the science behind that, you can tell us, because I don't know. But
The
yeah.
reason most recipes call for a colder butter when you're making biscuits is so that way when the butter melts in the oven, the melting gets flakier layers between it. You can certainly blend and use room temperature butter, but if you were to use a melted butter, the timing of it when it hit that hot oven, the steam wouldn't create those perfect fluffy layers that we crave in a biscuit.
Amazing. That's awesome. Thank you. All right. So that actually didn't take too long. So I'm just going to scrape off any extra batter with my Stump from my pastry blender. And what I've got in here, it's like, it almost looks like the texture of wet ocean sand with some little tiny rock chunks in it. So that's kind of what I'm feeling here in my bowl. And it just feels so nice to the touch. I've got little chunks, I've got a couple big chunks, and that's okay. So yeah, nice and chunky and buttery. Yum, yum, yum. So we got our butter in. What else? Ooh, okay. We get to do our sparkly drink soon. So what I'm gonna do is grab my my 1/4 cup measuring cup, and just gonna like, this is not a wet measuring cup. This is a dry measuring cup. In Stump Kitchen, I kind of break a lot of rules in the kitchen because I feel like if you have to follow all the rules when you're cooking for yourself, it can become a bit stressful. And so for me, I just do whatever feels good for my body and whatever works for me. And so sometimes I use dry measuring cups for wet things because you know what? I like to live on the edge. Keeps me on my toes, you know? You never know what you're gonna get with that. So yeah, you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and really live on the edge. I just saw someone say, me too. Yeah, that's right. You and I would be friends, definitely. So I'm gonna grab my sparkly water. In this case, I've got a can, so I'm gonna just open it. Oh yeah, there we go. And I'm gonna do a very risky move. I'm gonna balance my 1/4 cup measuring cup on the edge of my bowl of my dry ingredients. I'm gonna hold it there with my Stump, and then I'm gonna pour it in, and hopefully I don't get too much. We'll just see what happens. So you want a 1/4 cup fizzy water right into your dry. Oh, anticipation. Perfect. Yes, I don't know that word for like the surface tension of water that you get I just got it to that point, so that felt really good.
So,
and
are there tools right now that exist for those who might need it with measuring liquid products, or do you always have to worry about that uncertainty if you're pouring water or anything like that in the kitchen?
I don't, because I would just use a wet measuring cup, and then I would see what I was measuring, and then I would pour it in. So I would use that as opposed to a dry one, and that's I can put on the table. But I do see a lot of folks with limb differences using the technique of, putting something on the edge and measuring, because it's not always reliable to put a spoon on the table. Some of them have round bottoms and it would wiggle. And so unless you have enough of an arm or different techniques or skills to hold it in your elbow crook, I do that sometimes, but that's not everybody's experience. So I think to answer your question is, yeah, it really depends on what you're doing and what the tools are, but sometimes it's not the easiest. So yeah.
So while Alexis is about to pour that in, I would call that any of the Boston University gastronomy students who are interested in creating products in the kitchen for accessibility, something like that definitely needs to exist, especially for my friends who have something like Parkinson's or MS, who deal with more tremors and can't rely on that same technique that Alexis uses. We definitely need to see more accessible kitchenware being created.
Absolutely. So last but not least, we're just going to go ahead and pour in our buttermilk. And so I just poured all of my buttermilk in. Now we have all of our ingredients in. Yeah. And now we're going to just loosely mix. We don't want to over mix it. We're just going to mix it until combined. If there are some chunks of flour still left over when you got it mixed, that's okay. We want this to be a messy dough, just like my messy bun. I got my hair up in a messy bun and there's little tendrils of hair coming down from it. It's my signature look, really. So just mixing this up.
What did that buttermilk smell like when you poured it in?
Oh, it was like, it literally smelled like sour milk, like the combination of plain oat milk and vinegar. It was this lovely, lovely smell of like sour baking. And I'm realizing maybe it's the temperature right now because it's quite hot, but my dough is a little wet for me. So I'm actually going to put in a bit more flour. And you can too. And if your dough is feeling a bit dry, like it's not coming together, you can put in a little bit more of your fizzy water, just to kind of keep it more hydrated.
Do you mind showing us how you know it's too wet? So in the future, when we make the recipe, we know what too wet gives it clue to.
Absolutely. So as I'm looking at my dough, it is kind of crumbly, but it's got a lot of, oh, my lighting. It's got some glistening parts to it. So that's got some glistening batter parts. And you don't want it to be too glistening, if that makes any sense. I'm just gonna add a little bit more, maybe 1/8 of a cup, I'd say. And just a little bit more of a mix. Yeah, that's better. Like it shouldn't be as sticky as it was. You want it to be kind of almost coming together as a ball, but not quite. You still want it to be like a little bit floppy doppy, you know? Yeah. Nice, nice, nice.
So I want to see if anyone in the chat has any questions, or for the people who are making the recipe, you want to check with Alexis. You have the source right here. You can show her your bowl and she'll tell you if it's too wet or too dry.
Yeah. I'm gonna just grab a spoon.
While she grabs a spoon, I just want to open up the platform for any questions while she starts spooning and scooping that batter.
And let me know if any questions come in for sure. Some people put this all on the plate and then they cut little circles out with like a circle cutter, but I don't have time for that. I don't know if that would be successful. I just feel like that would be too much stress for me. So that's why I've made this into a drop biscuit recipe. And I'm going to take with a regular soup spoon, regular house tablespoon, and scoop about a golf ball size worth of biscuit dough. And I'm literally going to hold it above my plate or my tray about 6 inches up. And I'm going to scoop it out with the tip of my stump. And it's going to just drop onto the plate, onto the tray. And that's a beautiful little drop biscuit, just like so. And I'm just going to do that until I have like 12 on a pan. And this way you don't have to worry about how, if they look the same or not. And you can make it a little bit fun. You can try it from different heights. Whoa. And if you, the higher you go, the flatter your biscuits will be. So just know that. But honestly, they taste great if they're flat or fluffy.
What a great recipe that we can basically mess up and it's still perfect.
It's true. I make this with my 2-year-old all the time. They'll say, Mama, Joven, make biscuits. And I'm like, okay. And we can make it in very little time. And it's just so accessible for us to do together. It's a very forgiving recipe, but it's also really rewarding because it's, you don't often think biscuits and you think, oh, super simple. They're a little bit more complicated than a cookie.
Right.
So it's really rewarding to be able to do that, especially a gluten-free vegan one that actually is a bit
great.
Yeah. So scoop. And there's a great sound, like when you scoop off the dough and it kind of goes onto your plate, onto your pan. Just a lovely sound or a lovely motion, like so. Were there any questions from the audience?
Yes, someone just wanted to know if the measurements were the same, if they were using a wheat flour versus a gluten-free flour. Yes, it is a 1-to-1 conversion in this recipe.
You got it. Now I did this in a really weird way. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I got 10 on a pan, not 12. And that's okay. I'm actually going to make 2 pans. So I'm going to put this one off to the side, and I'm going to make my second pan because I have about half of my batter left. And if you did want to go that extra mile to make them, like use a little ring mold to cut out little biscuit circles, you definitely can. But I think I would add a bit more flour so you had a bit more texture to your dough. Otherwise, it would be a bit more floppy. My mom did it successfully. I haven't tried it yet.
I see some biscuits being made by our participants, and they look big and tall and fluffy. So it looks like this is a
yay!
universally loved and already accessible recipe for a lot of people.
I'm so happy. And does anybody know why our oven is so hot? It's at 450. That's like pizza baking temperature.
Were you the creator of this recipe?
No, but I did adapt it. So this is, the creator is Mama Knows gluten-free. But I adapted it to make it vegan. And so I tested it with a bunch of different vegan butters and egg replacements, and found this version to be the most successful. But yeah, why do we need such a hot oven? I like kind of know, but kind of don't know.
Our quick gastronomy guess as to why we might need a hot oven is so that way we can get a quick cook where the top and bottom get that lovely browning, but we still have a soft, doughy, almost undercooked, fluffy center that by the time they come out and carryover cook, the center is perfectly tender and the outside is still crunchy.
That was like such a beautiful answer, and I think that sounds totally right.
So
way better than I could.
We've got some questions. We have an RN in the audience who lives life in a wheelchair, and they were wondering about chopping vegetables. They find it challenging, needing to be above the counter working downward, and they're wondering if anyone, yourself included, or anyone in the audience has solutions for that trick, chopping vegetables.
Lovely question. Thank you so much. So I probably won't have, the exact answers that will work for you and your experience, but some things that come to mind are like, I know that when chopping, you often need to be above your knife to get a good, like to get that shoulder strength above. Cutting like this, where the table is higher than you want it to be, is really hard on the body and unsafe, or it can be. So I've actually, depending on where I'm cooking, I have just allowed myself to take the cutting board anywhere I want in the house. I've literally cooked on the floor before, depending on my energy levels. I've cut veggies and prepped on the kitchen table where it's a bit more seated height. So I have, I'm able to do what I need to do, but doing it sat down. Yeah, for me, it would just be like giving myself permission to travel with my tools and not having to be in a certain place. And then of course that doesn't work for everybody. So that's just a suggestion. And the other thing is I really like to put a moist tea towel under my cutting board to ensure that it doesn't slip out from underneath me. Because as I'm cutting, I'm using my whole forearm to hold down vegetables so they don't slip away, as opposed to a hand grasping it. So I need that extra support to make sure I'm as safe as possible.
That's a good tip for anyone of any accessibility level, is keeping that cutting board from sliding really helps prevent any injuries. While she slides that in the oven, I will mention when I was wheelchair bound, the countertop can be a bit too high, like you mentioned. And so if you pull out the drawer underneath it where you keep your silverware and then put your cutting board on top of it, you can slide the drawer closed a little bit and it creates just a 2 or 3 inches lower cutting shelf that can be used for you at varying heights in accessibility tools, or for kids if they need to chop and it's just a bit too high on that shelf.
That's brilliant. Yeah, all of my drawers, and there's 3 different heights. What a lovely idea. That's awesome. Yeah, I love problem solving with people. It's so cool. So I've put that in the oven. I've got 2 trays and I set the timer for 16 minutes. I might do 17 minutes because I usually only cook 1 tray at a time. So I'm actually going to do that for 17 minutes. So I've added a minute.
So I was wondering, while we have questions still rolling in, if you could talk a little bit about your journey in the kitchen, if it was something that came naturally to you, or if you had to find solutions for your limb difference and how you evolved to be the person you are in the kitchen today.
Absolutely. And as I am chatting about that, I'm going to be zesting a really large yellow lemon. I'm going to zest it, and then I'm going to cut it in half and juice it. But I'll save that for when I'm done the question. Okay, so I did not like cooking. I didn't do it much. But then when I became a vegan after being vegetarian for so long, and I got diagnosed with a gluten intolerance, and this lemon stuff, it's totally optional, by the way. So if you don't have a lemon, that's totally fine. This is just, we're going to make a little glaze to make this extra fancy, but you don't need that if you don't want. And so I was really intimidated and nervous and scared to get into the kitchen because you see on like the Food Network, you know, everything's perfect and all these recipes and all this stuff. And I just didn't feel accessible to me, especially because my own like visual processing and memory, it kind of fluctuates throughout my life depending on just how I'm doing. And so reading recipes is tricky too, sometimes. So that was intimidating. But so then I just found some really simple recipes to start. And I found that by accident, naturally, I was using my Stump as a tool. And I think the first way that I figured it out was I had a bowl of pancake batter or biscuit batter or something, and I used my Stump as a spatula to scrape it out. And I'm showing now with my Stump, I'm holding up a bowl and I'm putting my Stump in there to like doing the actions of what a spatula would be doing to scrape it out. And it was great. And then after I scraped it out, I just licked my Stump, washed my limbs, and then came back to cook. And my partner was like, "That's really cool. Wow." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, whatever." And then I was juicing a lemon. Dun, dun, dun. I just have a little bit of zest there. Juicing a lemon. So right now I'm cutting my lemon in half by holding my Stump on top of my lemon, squishing it down so it doesn't roll away. I'm just going to cut it down the middle. Where's my bowl? I had another here. I'll just use this. Just instinctively, I picked up half the lemon and I shoved my Stump in there and I juiced the lemon with my Stump. And it just felt so natural and so lovely, especially because I didn't have a juicer at the time. And again, my partner was like, "That's awesome." And I was like, "Oh yeah, okay." And basically, long story short, she kind of encouraged me to film myself and put it out there as an episode on YouTube for fun. And so I did, and I found that watching that footage back and editing it really brought me back a sense of, you know, childhood joy, wonder and joy with my body, you know, reuniting me with Bebe, my childhood Stump, my childhood play friend that I hadn't really acknowledged in a good way for a long time. So it was this beautiful activity that let me fall in love with my body in new ways. And basically from that point on, I couldn't do anything else. I just wanted to be creating content, learning more recipes, becoming a better cook, and talking about representation in the kitchen. So that's a long version of the story.
No, that's beautiful. And thank you for sharing that with us. I think a key takeaway is when you are able to celebrate something that makes you different instead of feeling shame or weird about it.
Absolutely.
It transforms when you're able to see the beauty and the difference.
Yeah, because there's too much of the negative in the world, honestly.
Right.
So it was a real gift. I'm going to put my lemon zest. I just did like half a teaspoon, not very much, into my lemon juice. I juiced both of my lemon sides. And I'm putting that into a measuring cup. It's like a 2-cup one. And now I'm just going to put in a whole bunch of icing sugar, so really fine sugar. And I'm going to whisk it up until it makes kind of a glaze that I can drizzle over the hot biscuits when they come out of the oven. My mouth just started to water as I was saying that to you. So that shows you how excited I am about that whole process. Just going to chicken wing my, what's this, icing sugar, like that. I don't know how much should go in. I just eyeball this a lot. So I'm just going to pour some in and hope for the best. Hello. I'm just going to scoop it out with my whisk. And I'm going to whisk it up, whisk it up, whisk it up. Okay, it's not very thick. I'm going to need some more. Whisk it up, whisk it up, whisk it up. More. I always find you need way more icing sugar than you think, isn't that the case?
Always. What kind of consistency are you looking for the glaze? How runny?
So we want it pretty runny, but not watery. So I'm trying to get it to a point where it catches a few drips before it goes down. So I'm gonna do a bit more, and I'll show you that and try to describe it when I get to that. What would it be like? Almost like really runny pancake batter. Oh yeah, okay. So I'm feeling some resistance with my whisk. So that's what you want. You want to feel a little bit of resistance with your whisk, and then the texture is like perfect. And so see how when I pick it up now, there's a bit of a line as opposed to just drips. So when you get that line, that's what you want. The resistance on your whisk or a line of drizzle that you can take across. Now I'm going to show you what I like to do when I'm cooking for myself. I'm just going to go ahead and try this way. Yeah. Oh, that's very good. Oh my gosh. Lemon juice, lemon zest, and icing sugar. It's like a dream come true. Oh, that's tart and good. Whew. Delish.
Like liquid
this is
lemonade.
Our glaze for later. Sorry, Amber?
I said it's like liquid lemonade. Thank you for joining us, Kimberly. And we have a question that says, are you going to turn the tray halfway in the oven, or is it completely fine to be left there for the full cook time?
I'm so glad you said that, because my oven, and you reminded me, it does not bake evenly top to bottom. So I'm actually going to flip the position of the two trays, top to bottom, bottom to top. I don't really rotate my pans, and I haven't noticed any issues with that. Oh my gosh, 8 minutes. Wow, that was good timing. So I'm going to go ahead and switch their positions.
I got you. Is anyone else already throwing theirs in the oven? You want to quickly rotate them? Can I get a thumbs up from anyone who has thrown theirs into the oven? How is your kitchen smelling at this point? Got a few people who are cooking along with us, and we've got some big thumbs up.
Yum, 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 yum. So excited. This is like the perfect treat for a spring. Oh, I'm going to call it summer. Summer's day. Great. Oh, I see someone else licking their glaze. That's so great.
Got some excited young cooks joining us making this biscuit recipe.
So happy. And they keep really well. So typically I'll just put them in a large Tupperware container and just leave them on the counter for 2 days. And then if you have any left at that point, which I doubt you will, do, then maybe stick them in the fridge. But keep them out as long as you can to keep their nice fluffiness and so they don't get too dry. But honestly, they'll be gone by like later tonight, I think.
So I'm wondering, as you begin to start cleaning up, doing dishes, for people who have accessibility or hand mobility issues, sometimes doing dishes is a problematic area. The hot water can be triggering on their skin or on their nerves. And I was wondering how you've adapted your process for tidying up at the end. The cooking is great, but at the end, cleanup can be hard for even the best of us. Well, absolutely. There's some days I just don't do it, and my partner might, but there are days, obviously, like a lot of days that I do it. And I have to be careful if I'm, holding a large pot with water in it and I'm lifting it around, just being careful with
it slipping, because I've dropped hot water on and burnt myself, not badly, but I've definitely surprised and hurt myself in that way. But so mostly the things for me are making sure that I'm not super hunched, because I have to reach so much extra with my left shoulder. I need to make sure that I'm letting myself go into like a lunge, so my back can be straight as I'm doing dishes and I'm not hunching and trying to reach, because that can give me shoulder and neck pain. The other thing I really like to use is a long bristled brush to help me reach certain places and do a lot of the cleaning without having to get, you know, my entire stump wet and dirty. I'll just kind of use that. What else? Oh, and one thing that's really awesome is I'll show you. So for me, hot water is okay. So I can get a dishcloth, get it soapy and wet, and I put it on my stump, literally like a little ghost. Like I'm putting a red washcloth on my stump, and it looks like a tiny mini ghost that you would see at your Halloween, at your door for Halloween. Trick or treat, please. Anyway, so I do this, and then I grab a cup. Can we grab a cup? Show you. And you just stick it right in, and I get right down to the bottom. And this, my stump can fit into some cups and cracks that my hand can't because it's too big. So it's actually a really awesome dishwashing tool that I like to use. So it's actually been more supportive in that area. And lastly, I'll say wearing an apron is nice, because I get very wet compared to many people I know when I wash dishes, because I am really in there. So that's a hazard as well. So I hope that kind of answered your question a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it paralleled the question about wheelchairs, because that's having to be lower as well. For you, if a sink were raised up more, you could get into it, and the depth of it is hindering that process. So it really shows our kitchens should be as flexible as we are.
Honestly, if all kitchens could be different, like if there were just like built-in seats everywhere and people could be either sitting, or it was wheelchair height, or movable surfaces, or more grippy surfaces, there's so much that could be changed, because it's really made for, I don't know, pretty specific bodies. So
right, and not everybody is that body that it's made for. So while I ask for questions to flood in at anyone's leisure, I wanted to know how you have adapted your kitchen specifically for yourself, and any tips you can give to other limb difference individuals in our group today.
Yeah, okay. I mentioned the messiness thing. That might be just me. I don't think it's a general limb difference thing. I think it's just me, but who knows? I have a lot of tea towels always on hand, no pun intended. I have tools in very easy to grab, you know, places all around. So if I'm going to do something, it's kind of ready for me. So I've got measuring stuff out. I've got my knives are out. My measuring spoons are out. I have a really sturdy, good cutting board, and I have extremely sharp Japanese knives that are all handcrafted. You don't need handcrafted Japanese knives to, like, you don't need that. For me, it just made cooking like this incredible journey of like, wow, I feel like such a king. This is amazing. But even if you have like a $10 knife, if that knife has been professionally sharpened, which can cost $5 to $15, that'll last you for 6 months to a year, and it'll make your cooking experience so joyful, particularly as a person with a limb difference who, for me, I don't have as much mobility in my left arm, and I rely on that knife to do a lot of the work for me. So if I'm not having to stabilize my food or worry about, is the knife going to not cut through? Do I really have to? Because dull knives are so much less safe than a sharp knife is. Sharp knives, they go where you want them to go. They bring so much pleasure into the cooking process. So honestly, a sharp knife is number one, my advice for more accessibility in the kitchen.
Yeah, and that's for people of all abilities. A huge reason people get hurt in the kitchen is because of a dull knife. So if you're going to start anywhere, start by sharpening knives.
And then surprisingly, I haven't actually adapted too much else. However, there is one tool other than sharp knives and a really good sturdy cutting board that has like grips on it, is this can opener. It's by Starfrit, and it's the can opener that goes on top of the can, and you click it shut, and then there are can openers that stay closed. This one doesn't stay closed. However, it stays closed much easier than like a metal one would. So I put it on the can, and then I kind of breathe in my elbow crook of my stump arm, and then I hold the can opener shut like that, give it some traction. It's very sticky as opposed to metal ones that are slippery. And then the handle on top is very easy to turn compared to some that are very stiff or on the side. And I find it stays on better. It just really works. It's made my relationship with can opening a positive one, because before this, I had a lot of swear words. I had a lot of angry throwing of cans, just frustration. So this has been a really cool tool. But I'm sure people here have lots of great ideas for tools that they use that, might be really supportive too.
Yeah, and so along those same lines, we've got a question from Dana. We got a few thank yous, and we got a question that's kind of long, and they wanted to know that they really liked how you cook with others, first of all.
Yeah.
And along those same lines, when you cook with others, you swap tips, and they want to know, why did you decide to begin cooking with others, especially those who are acquired amputees? What does that mean for you to engage that community?
That's such a great question. So a lot of things come up for that. So first of all, it happened by accident. None of this was planned. The whole Stump Kitchen process has literally been a follow your heart process, which means exactly that, just following my heart. And so I got a message near the beginning from a mom in my city saying, hey, my kid has an arm like you. Do you want to meet her? Do you want to cook with her on your show? And I was like, yes, I do. I just asked my heart, and it was like, yes, I do, so badly. So we met, and so that's Callie. Callie is a little one. Well, she's not little anymore. She's like 12 now. But I met her when she was 8. And maybe she's 13. Did she just have her birthday? Anyway, she's old. And when we met each other, it was like this, we walked into the house, like she came in, and it was winter, and I looked at her and I was like, what did I say? I was like, oh yeah, winter coat zippers, am I right? And she was like, yeah, they're the worst. So we just bonded over like doing up zippers on our winter coat. And then we started cooking together and filming. And, her mom told me later that she had been hiding her arm now and again. We all kind of go through that. I definitely did too. But then after cooking with me, she was making arm jokes. She wasn't hiding as much. She was using her arm in these different ways, because we were able to see the other in each other's existence together in a way. So I was seeing my little inner child, and she was seeing, like, I don't know, maybe her future self in a way.
For
and
sure.
It was like this beautiful synergy. And so that's what started the whole cooking with people thing, because of the energy that it created and the representation. And then it just expanded from there. And if it felt right, I did it. If somebody asked to be on the show and it felt good, we did it. And I never pursued anything that didn't feel good. So yeah, I just trusted my body and heart, and it's always been so worth it. Well, did I answer the question?
Yes, absolutely.
Good, okay.
Obviously.
The last part to that I'll just say is I realized a couple years, well, maybe a year after starting the show, is that the representation of disabled bodies in the kitchen, and I guess in the way that I do it too, was really important for me and for the world. And so bringing more people on, it just made more sense, and wanting to do that in a joyful way with others. So yeah.
No, that's amazing. And clearly that was one of the reasons we wanted to create this event, is having community and being able to be with those with whom you see likeness and see yourself in is really empowering. And so along those same lines, do you know of any channels or places where community swapping of culinary techniques exists.
So for cooking specifically?
Sure.
No, like the way that works for me in my life is like so I'm really big on I'm really into and active on TikTok, and that's a great place for sharing tips here and there, especially for disabled folks, etc. So just any platform that you can make a friend on social media and you're putting yourself out there, or just consuming media and asking questions, it's been so good. But I haven't come across any kind of specific group for disabled chefs or disabled cooking. There might be, but I haven't come across it.
Well, I think a lot of us now have a friend in the Stump kitchen now too.
Absolutely. And the nice thing about me is that I'm still just like a medium creator. I'm not so big that I like can't talk to people. I can talk to people. So send me a message and I'll talk to you. And I want to stay that way. My biscuits are done. Are your biscuits done?
Yeah, why don't you show us them? Tell us how you knew they were done and give us a little hint into what that kitchen smells like right now.
It smells amazing. I knew they were done because the oven told me. But then I looked at them and they've got a golden brown top and a golden brown bottom. So it's almost like the foothills of the Rocky Mountains with little brown peaks and then light brown kind of around it, and then a very light golden brown bottom. And they kind of bounce when you touch them. There's a nice crunch on them. I'm just going to go ahead and drizzle some drizzle on my.
Yeah, let's drizzle some glaze together. I want to see that glaze action.
Like lighting, the sun is
really
bright where I am.
The sun's excited about the biscuits too.
Yeah. So I'm gonna just whisk up my glaze and just kind of, just drop it over. Oh yeah. Okay. This is gonna be hot, but I don't care. So
it's warm. I'm assuming it's melting into that biscuit.
It's melting, it's rolling off the biscuit. It smells like butter baked, a bit of buttermilk, and it smells a little bit like citrus. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take a bite. Oh my goodness. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay, so the crust, you bite into the hard crust, it's like kind of hard, and then it's like buttery soft in the middle. Oh my gosh.
I think all of us who aren't making those biscuits right now wish we were in your kitchen. Yeah, let's get a close up. Show us that crumb texture.
How do I show? Yeah, can you see that?
Oh, that's great.
Look at that, the little puffy holes in there. And like I rarely get that with a gluten-free.
Right. I was just about to comment, it's so hard not to get something really dense. So that seltzer water might be the big trick into making them so fluffy.
Absolutely. I'm so happy that I found that tip and then tried it out, because it really does work well. Yeah, and your ovens, like you might need to bake these for longer or shorter depending, but for me 17 minutes for 2 batches was really good.
Well, heck yes, she is so excited. We're so excited that we got to have you in the kitchen with us today. I want to open up one last time for anyone who has any questions before we head out. So if you've got a question, this is your chance. Throw it in the chat and we can ask the one and only Stump Kitchen Alexis if you choose on that biscuit. We've got a couple of views rolling in.
Yeah, and you can find me on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And I take questions there all the time. And you can show me what you do too. Always good. Yum.
I see some of the individuals who jumped on the biscuit recipe are chowing down. And
are you good? How did they turn out?
I've got some big smiles if you want to let us know what you think.
I see some thumbs up. Good job. That's awesome. Way to go.
And lots of energy. Kelly says, I love your energy, joy, and expertise. Thank you so much for joining us today, Kelly.
Thank you so much.
I want to remind you, Kelly, that this program was brought to you by Boston University. And if you have any questions, feel free to follow us on our socials as well. Stump Kitchen is going to be a great resource in the future. And I think it was really wonderful to have all of us as a team together to talk about accessibility. So any questions about that in the future, we're here to be a resource to answer those questions and provide opportunities to communicate around those spaces. Oh,
Fun. Fun is coming in.
okay, well, I think that everyone who has cooked is digging in. So if you have any last thoughts, Alexis, I'd like to provide you a platform to just say anything you would like to wrap up about limb difference and what this experience being in the kitchen has meant for you on this journey.
Yeah, it's just been so fulfilling. Being here has been so awesome. And I think the most important thing is, like I said before, following your heart. And that has to do with cooking, has to do with how you engage with your own body, your own life, people around you. Following your heart, you can't go wrong. Trust that, and yeah, just let the joy come. And I've seen joy on many people's faces today. So that's what this is all about.
Yeah,
Community joy.
it's definitely been joyful to be with you in the kitchen. We've got people saying such a bright way to begin the week. Thank you so much, Alexis, says Lindsay.
Yay!
And we've got Tita, who were the family that made this beautiful biscuits together, and they're waving at us. Thank you so much for your energy, and they enjoyed everything that you taught us. They're sending big heart hands your way. And so I just want to take a second, yeah, for sure, to thank you from everyone here at Boston University and the Disability and Inclusion Office and BU Gastronomy. Thank you so much, Stump Kitchen, for being a part of our gastronomy community today. And I encourage everyone to continue to connect with accessibility in your kitchen in any way possible. Big thank you to Stump Kitchen for joining us. And I can't wait to go make the biscuits myself so my kitchen can hopefully smell as good as yours does today.
Thank you so much. This was such a joyful experience, and yeah, awesome. Happy cooking, everyone.
Happy cooking. Thank you so much.
Bye.